The MacBook Air has been a very polar device, with some people claiming that this is a great machine and others saying that it's not due to its thermals and loud fans. So I've had this machine for about 6 months, so I thought it was time for me to do a little bit of review after that time. Hello everyone, my name's Mike, and here at Tech Harmoon we uncover tech at home and in video. So hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. The MacBook Air is a very well designed MacBook at a great price. For those looking to get their first Mac or to update their old 10-year-old MacBook, this might be the Mac for you, but stick around to the end of this video to hear my recommendation, as I think it will surprise you. By the way, I've done a couple of videos on this MacBook Air, so check those out. But let's give a quick rundown of what I have here and some of the main features, as we'll get into some real world tests later on in this video. So watch to the end. Now, I have the MacBook Air 2020 with the 10th generation i5 processor with 8GB of RAM and 256GB of SSD storage, retailing here in the UK for £1,099. Now, in other parts of the world, you might not be able to configure this specific specification, so keep that in mind. But I think that this will be a good reference for today's video. Let's start with the screen, as this is something that you'll be looking at every single day using this machine. This features a 13.3 inch 2560 by 1600 display. It has an aspect ratio of 16 by 10, which is great for web consumption. The viewing angles are great, but lacks the P3 wide color gamut that you see on the Pro models. But this does display around 110% sRGB range, which will still be good for things like casual photo and video editing, but should be avoided if you're looking to do more professional work. The keyboard and trackpad on this machine is so much better than pretty much any other Windows laptop that I've tried, in my opinion. The keys are very tactile and are clicky enough to be nice, but not so loud where they might be distracting in a classroom. Here's a quick type test. Moving on to the speakers, they are really good. They aren't as good as the Pro models, I would say, but they still outperform pretty much any Windows laptops at this price point. They sound great for casual listening and get loud enough to enjoy music in, let's say, a college dorm room. Here's a quick test of these speakers. Battery life, just to let you know, is great. I got around 8 to 9 hours with casual use, so this will easily last a full day's of work or classes with some time left over for some Netflix. So this laptop, just to let you know, comes with 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, and they're both Type C ports, and also a headphone jack, and that's it. So if you want to connect anything else to it, either make sure you have a dongle in your bag or make sure it's USB-C compatible. The state of USB-C devices has got better over the years, but it's still not there even after 4 years since Apple made the move to USB-C everything on their MacBooks. And here is a test of the webcam and microphone. So the microphone isn't actually too bad. Now, it does have a multi-microphone array, which is meant to be a massive improvement compared to the previous generations, and I do notice the difference. However, I wouldn't say they are as good as the MacBook Pros. They have got just much better microphones. However, the webcam, that is still 720p, and it is just unforgivable, especially in 2020. We've seen them put the 1080p webcams in the new 27-inch iMacs, and that is something that they need to put in this thing, because this is not good for 2020. And the 1080p webcams that you find in the 27-inch are fantastic. So I really hope that the next generations we start to see the 1080p, but this will get you through a Zoom call. But if you've got something like an external webcam or something like a DSLR that you can link into the MacBook, that would be a far better solution. Now, moving on to heat. As we all know, this laptop can get hot, but let's see what kind of uses can cause the heating issues. And also, let's see how the fans ramp up too. First, let's start with Chrome, as this is one of the hardest browsers on this laptop. When playing 1080p YouTube while having 9 other Chrome tabs open in the background, we see temperatures peak of 87 degrees and lows of around 70 degrees, and the fans turned on around 2000 3,700 RPM, which, just to let you know, isn't audible at normal distances. The temperatures and fans don't climb up the longer you keep doing this, which is really good. So if you're doing this, let's say at home or anything like that, you should be fine. If we step things up to 4K, we do see temperatures peak up to 90 degrees, but then they settle around 75 degrees, and the fans, they peak a little bit more at around 3,000 RPM, but again isn't very loud and is barely audible at normal viewing distances. Now, if we do a screen recording of this in the background, temperatures climb all the way up to 98 degrees, and the fans max out after 10 minutes of doing this, which is now at audible levels. And as you can see, the video starts to stutter and have issues while doing this. Now, this obviously isn't a great experience, but you are obviously pushing the system. I would say that the cause of this is due to the lack of RAM, of it only having 8 gigabytes. So 16 gigabytes, you should be fine. Now, if we do the same screen recording with 1080p, we see that it's a lot smoother. But again, after 10 minutes, we hear the fans literally maxing out and temperatures again maxing out. So be aware that if you're going to be doing anything like screen recording, like for tutorials or anything like that, after about 10 minutes, this thing is gonna start blasting hot air all around, and you're gonna hear it. And for sure, it's gonna be picked up by the microphones. So if you're gonna be doing anything like that, then avoid this laptop for sure. Now let's try to do the same tests in Safari. However, on this, we max out at only 1080p due to Apple not supporting 4K playback on YouTube with macOS Safari. But anyway, let's see how this handles. So while I was watching 1080p YouTube videos while having around 9 tabs in the background, the temperatures didn't really move from around 50 to 55 degrees, and the fans, well, basically they didn't turn on at all, no matter how long I was watching 1080p YouTube in Safari. The MacBook Air, while doing this and screen recording, well, the temperatures do shoot up to around 93 to 94, and the fans, they just kept climbing until it maxed out after 10 minutes of doing this. Once you do stop screen recording though, the temperatures and fans do drop down to normal levels after about a minute or so. What these tests show is that Chrome does push the MacBook Air, and Safari is really the browser of choice on this Mac. If you are going to be doing a lot of web-based productivity, then I would probably say the MacBook Air will be fine, but I would recommend sticking with Safari for optimal results. Now, a lot of you in my last video mentioned that you like to connect up an external display, let's say for work or at home, and having this, let's say, in dual screen mode. So when I used a similar situation like with Chrome or Safari in the background with an external display, the temperatures stayed at around 70 degrees and the fans were just under 3,000 RPM. So if you're looking to connect to an external display with this Mac, then I wouldn't really recommend anything more than, let's say, standard web browsing or video consumption, as anything more from my experience has just made this MacBook really heat up and the fans start blasting out. So just stick to standard web usage when using an external display. Now, I tried to do a few Zoom call tests, but unfortunately I couldn't really test it with more than one person on a Zoom call. However, with just one person on a Zoom call, it worked fine. However, from sort of my audience and everything like that, if you have more than around sort of 10 to 15 participants on a Zoom call and you want to do things like screen sharing or anything like that, then you may experience some fan noise and the temperatures shooting up. So again, not really the best MacBook if you're, let's say, a teacher needing to do a Zoom call for a class of around sort of 15, 20, up to 30 students. So what has this MacBook been like to video edit with? As I know a lot of you guys have been asking me this question. If you want to be editing videos in iMovie, then this laptop will be just fine. The fans, they don't turn on much at all, and the only time that they were audible was when you're exporting, but that's pretty much normal for any MacBook. The temperatures during a standard iMovie video editing session stayed at around sort of 60 up to 80 degrees depending on what you're doing, and this was with 4K 8-bit footage. In Final Cut Pro, it's a very similar story. However, just be aware that you can't really play back in high quality mode on the preview window, especially once you start adding different third-party effects or color grades or anything like that to your footage. As you can see, we get a lot of skipped frames and it's just not smooth at all. So you're better off setting the preview to better performance, which lowers the resolution in the viewer, but you get much better playback and smoother playback without any dropped frames. Just to let you know, if you're going to be trying to edit GoPro footage or 10-bit 4K footage on this laptop, then please don't. Unless you're planning to transcode the media to ProRes or setting up proxies, this laptop really just can't handle that kind of footage. Same thing goes for anyone who wants to work with high-res photos too. This is just a little bit too slow for that. Obviously, casual photo editing, no problem at all. So would I recommend this laptop now I've had a little bit more time with it? Well, if you're someone who needs a laptop right now for college or school, so doing things like essay writing and watching a few videos, then I would say that this is a good laptop. But if you're looking to do anything harder, like video editing more than sort of iMovie, or let's say doing any coding or doing any sort of raw photo editing, then I would give this MacBook Air a miss. However, would I recommend you buy this right now with everything going on? I would actually say hold off on buying this model unless you get a great deal on it, because with all of the thermal issues and also the fact that you have to be a little bit limited with what you can do on this model without obviously blowing the fans off of this thing, then I would say that the MacBook Air has the most to gain with an Apple Silicon chip in this, as firstly it'll be a lot quieter and more powerful in the same form factor, meaning that the upgraded model, which will be coming out sort of in the next month or so, could be the perfect model for almost any student or light Mac user, and will even be able to handle more intensive tasks with better vitals than we're currently seeing with this Intel MacBook Air. We also might see battery life nearly double from this MacBook Air 2, which would just be insane for absolutely anyone. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see a comparison between this and the all new Apple Silicon MacBook Air when that drops. But there we have it. As always, this is a discussion, so please leave a comment down below, and also check out the links in the description so you can support the channel. If you haven't already, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TechCarMoon. Drop me a like on this video if you've enjoyed it, and if you want to keep watching more videos from me, then click one of these two videos that I have over here. I've handpicked them myself. Anyway everyone, look after yourselves and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.